What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream. That's right, baby. Football is here. We're starting up tomorrow night. I'm Howard Bender. With me here, of course, Craig Mish. And Craig, the lines are out. The over-unders are set. COVID tests are going to be abundant. And here we go, man. It's time to get ready for week one of the NFL.
I didn't know that we would get here. I got to be honest. Given what baseball went through, I really didn't know if we would get here. But if there's anybody educated enough to talk about the season and what could potentially happen with players and things like that, I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to be able to weigh in on that, having gone through the COVID stuff in sports with the Marlins. And so I think that it's a different dynamic this year for sure, and there's no doubt about that. There's a few things that we'll touch on here at the top, and then we'll get into some of the picks and certainly how we're going to handle this year. The first and most important thing, Howard, I think we should tell everyone is that we're changing the Friday night live stream, at least for the time being, to Saturday night. And I know that there are probably going to be some people out there who are going to ask why. And, certainly our college picks and our picks in the Golden Nugget were really good last year. We did very well in that contest, exceptionally well in our first time in the college contest, in addition to the super contest. But Howard and I just kind of made a conscious decision this year that given the fact that the Golden Nugget is not doing their contest and the Circa is the only one that is, and also given the fact that there are several conferences not playing in college football, that sadly, as much as we're going to talk about the picks on Tuesday night, we are probably going to be bypassing college football on Saturday night and doing those picks. So that's the first thing. And obviously that pains me for that, to have to do it that way. But there's another reason for that. And that's because we have a lot of money on the super contest. And Howard and I put our own money into this. This is not a $20 contest. This is $2,000 of our own money that we're putting into this. And look, I've made bets that big before, but I do consider that to be a lot. And so it's not that we need to spend more time dedicating ourselves to the contest. It's that the super contest, because of the issues that are facing everyone in sports betting, made the very wise decision to allow the contest picks to be in on Saturday night as opposed to Saturday morning. And for those of you who bet on sports and who bet on the NFL, one of the key moments every year, and it doesn't happen a lot, is that we find out from some of the NFL insiders on Saturday who flew on the plane to go to the destination where the game will be played. And if you find out that a player is not on that plane, then simply put, the line moves significantly, especially if it's a quarterback.
Right.
And so I think we have to do our due diligence, Howard, this year with the amount of money that we're putting up to submit those picks as close to the deadline as possible, and wait to see what we may hear on Saturday, because players are going to be tested on Friday and they're going to get those results on Saturday morning before they fly. They will not be allowed to fly if they are positive. So why would we put in our selections on a Friday and do our picks here on a Friday night when we're going to end up changing them most likely a lot over the course of the season? So I don't know if that summed it up, Howard, best, but I think that's sort of the direction that we're going in. So Tuesday night live streams and Saturday night live streams for the Sunday NFL games.
Yeah. Right. We might splash in a little bit of a college talk on a Tuesday if there's a particular game that's
I'd love to
coming up.
I'd love to, but realistically, giving advice on and normally I love getting ahead of lines. You know that we've talked. We've gone over this for many years, and we've talked on Tuesday, and then we come back on Friday and go, wow, that was a great idea that we did this or did that, and lines have moved. But we'd also be doing ourselves a disservice there too, because games are going to be played Saturday. And college is going to be a lot more mysterious as far as the guys are not on the field Saturday. The game begins. They're like, oh, I guess this person's not playing. Like it happened many years ago with Josh Rosen at UCLA. It was like a Saturday night game, and like all of a sudden he just wasn't on the field because he was hurt. He didn't play in the game. I was like, what? When did that happen? So
the focus stays on the NFL, and that's okay.
Yeah. So our Saturday is going to be for the Sunday NFL picks. We're still going to have our 5 super contest picks. And certainly every Tuesday night, we'll take a look at the early lines. And make no mistake about it, when the SEC gets rolling next week and some of the tough conference games start getting played, we'll do a deeper dive into that. As most people know, there was already the first game of the college football season on Saturday has been postponed. Louisiana Tech and Baylor. It was the first game on the board, but because Louisiana had the hurricane come through, a lot of the players were displaced, and some of them tested positive, and so Louisiana Tech pulled out of that game. That's the kind of season it's going to be. But enough of the negative. Let's move to the positive.
2020, baby. Come on, look behind me right now. You can see it.
We're gonna talk about the 2 games tomorrow night. There are 2 games tomorrow night. Okay, you don't always have to just wager on the one. There's 2 college. There's a college and a pro, and then we'll dive into some of the early lines on the Sunday games. There are not a ton of great college football games this Saturday. Those great out of conference games that we used to see in the past for our entire lives are just not happening this year. So I guess let's start there.
All right, well, let's kick it off then. Let's start talking Houston against Kansas City. Spread is looks like 9 points right now, although if you go over to the FanDuel Sportsbook, you get that hook in there. It's plus 9.5 for Houston.
Right. Yeah.
Against the Chiefs. I mean, Super Bowl champions, hangover coming back. I mean, it's a tremendous group of players. The debut of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, Howard, when I look at it. The one element that we're going to find out pretty quickly this season, and I don't know how you feel about this, are the totals in the NFL. So before we get to the spread, I don't know how this is going to be affected with no fans. I've heard a couple of different things. The first thing that I've heard is that it's going to be tougher to get motivated for games without fans, and so therefore the scoring will be down. That's one narrative I've heard. The other narrative I've heard is the one very similar to the NBA, where because there are no fans, there's a lot less pressure, and in the NBA in particular, you have seen a ton of very high-scoring games, and in fact, you've seen players like Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell put up 50 points against each other almost every game in that series. So what is the answer? Nobody knows. But we're going to have to watch this very closely to see how the first few games play out and whether or not points are a factor at all due to the lack of at least full crowds in most places. So the total in this one opened up at 55.5. It's now down to 54.5. And from previous Thursday night games and openers, for me, at least, Howard, what I remember over the last decade is not a lot, which tells you that a lot of the games are usually disappointments on the first Thursday night of the season, and I'm going to play into that as well. And look, these 2 teams played in the playoffs. There's no doubt. Houston went up, remember, very big, and then Kansas City came all the way back and just crushed them. Going against Mahomes and going against an under here is not always the way to go, but that is the lean that I'm going to have on Thursday night. And I'm going to go with the idea that it's a game. It's the first game out of the box. Teams have not had a lot of time to prepare. They've had no preseason. They haven't seen each other. Houston and Kansas City in particular have upgraded a little bit on their edge rushers, so that means maybe more pressure on the quarterback. Do they just try to get in and out of this game and get to the following week? Because let's be honest, isn't this sort of like a glorified preseason, like all into one? They didn't play any games at all. So
it's the Sunday dress rehearsal right now going on tomorrow.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be that way for all of the games coming up this week, but that's the story that I'm going with here, and I'm going to lean under 54.5. I'm going to lean on a dud.
Okay. I mean, listen, we play unders a lot early on in the NFL. That's something that we've seen over the last couple of seasons since we've been doing this live stream. So, I can't go against that. I mean, I really can't. As far as both these teams, they're both high octane offenses. They're both two offenses who can definitely put up some serious points. And you could legit see Deshaun Watson hitting Will Fuller downfield, and then Pat Mahomes answering the call with Tyreek Hill. But I'm with you. I think the energy, it's going to be really weird for these players. Like, players are a creature of habit. Right. It's, once you get them off their regular schedule, then it's like, who knows what's going on. And I think coming into this game, no fans, defending defending the Super Bowl, like this was supposed to be like the big game,
of course,
for the Chiefs, like get their Super Bowl rings and big presentation, everything like that. And it's all been very, very subdued. So I like
Yeah,
the call on the under.
and the other thing too is that look, baseball and football are two different sports. I cover baseball. Um, Mike Trout has 15 home runs. Nelson Cruz has 15 home runs. Tatis, I think, has 15 home runs. They kind of got them all at once. The first couple of weeks of the baseball season took a little getting used to without fans, and that was a big part of the conversation. You don't hear about it a lot now. The reason why is because they got used to it. I think the same thing is going to happen in the NFL. Now, if you're asking me, oh, well, should I just bet under on every game? Of course not. There's going to be some dreadful defenses out there that are not going to be able to stop anybody. Jacksonville, Carolina, we have no idea what they're going to look like this year. So this is just a one game, scenario for me with this one. And again, it's not one that I would bet. I think there are better games on the board, but that would be my lean at least under there. Miami will play the University of Alabama at Birmingham on Thursday. Also, they'll play that one in Miami Gardens. Essentially, this will be the biggest college football game of the early part of the season. On Monday night, BYU just destroyed Navy, and BYU looks like a pretty good team to start the season too. But Miami has a young quarterback in De'Aaron King who played for Houston. And at the end of last year, when we were doing our live streams, I mean, he was really good at Houston, a great player. And in fact, for people who played college fantasy, he was the #1 pick.
Yes, he was, because somebody told me to take him with the #1 pick in our college fantasy draft.
He was the #1 pick. So look, this is a dynamic quarterback that potentially has NFL potential as well. Remember, he told the head coach there, Dana Holgorsen, that he was not leaving Houston. He just didn't want to play the season last year, and then, of course, he left. And so Miami has him. It does change the dynamic for them quite a bit. And in the past, it would be almost impossible for me to consider laying points with them. But I do think that this kid is the real deal. I don't think that this makes Miami a contender at all. They lost their best defensive player, Greg Rousseau, who opted out. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, maybe top 10 next year. But if I had to lean one way or the other here, we've seen some serious blowouts in the early part of the college football season because I think that teams are not fully prepared to go. So I'll take Miami in this one just on a lean. Minus 14.5. I hated the line when it came up. I believe it was minus 17, but the line has come down some because, I suppose UAB looked pretty good in their first outing. So, but I'll lean Miami here.
All right, so lean Miami in the laying the points. Lean on the under for Houston, Kansas City. Let's take a look ahead at Sunday. Now, one of the things that we like to do, and usually again these live streams are on Tuesday. When the lines come out, we just kind of like to take a little glance through them on Tuesday, kind of figure out which ones seem a little bit, funky. That, you look at a line, you're like, yeah, this one, I don't really know about this game. And let's go through them. You've gone through all the games here. We don't need to go through each game. Let's point out a couple of lines that you find.
Well, look, let's be honest. And again, this game in particular, to me, is going to say a lot about what the TV ratings are going to be in the NFL this year. Because for me, if Buccaneers Saints in the afternoon on Sunday isn't the highest rated game in the NFL in the last 5 years, then the NFL is going to have a problem. Because there isn't anyone going into that day outside of if you're a fantasy football player or a gambler or wager on the other games. I mean, everyone is going to want to see Tom Brady play in another uniform. I mean, this is the same when Joe Montana went to Kansas City. He is arguably the greatest quarterback, maybe one of the greatest athletes of all time in a different uniform. And just for the shock value alone, we're going to be watching. So I would guess the world will be watching. But what do I know? We'll see what the ratings are on Monday. The Saints opened up as 4-point favorites. It seems low. But again, it is Tom Brady. It's his first game, too. The line is now at minus 3.5. So if you were going to take the Saints on some of the online shops, you could buy a 0.5 point, depending on where you're betting. The total is 49.5. And Howard, for me, I certainly could not take Tampa Bay in this game if there was a crowd in New Orleans. They are so good in that building, and I don't think Brady makes a 7-point difference. If Winston was the quarterback of the Bucs, the Saints would be more than a touchdown favorite. They would. They'd be 7.5, 8-point favorites.
Right.
But the Brady factor is there, and I'm not going to put too much into one game one way or the other here. But I certainly think that that the Saints at home, it's just such a hard team to go against. So I just want to watch this game. I don't really have a betting interest.
Right on. All right. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I think it's you're dead right that it's going to end up being one of the most watched. Um,
If it's not, there's a huge problem.
Well, I mean,
I mean, the only thing that could have been different was putting this on. I don't know how this didn't get on Sunday night or Monday night.
it's gonna be blacked out in the New England area. They're just gonna be like, you know what? You can't watch Tom anymore. That's it.
It's an incredible story for sports, and it's. I mean, look, Peyton Manning going to Denver was certainly something, but it was the circumstances were different because Manning was hurt. They drafted Andrew Luck. It's kind of like everybody knew that he was on his way out, but the way that Tom Brady left, I mean, it was just everyone just fully assumed he was going to come back for that year. So I would imagine that a lot of people will watch that game, and I'll be curious about that game for sure. We can go over a couple more games here, Howard, in terms of some of the others. The Patriots on the flip side of this have Cam Newton, former MVP. He's going to be making his first start ever as a New England Patriot. So I'm guessing the Patriots fans gets to watch the early game, watch their team, and then get to watch their old quarterback late. But they opened up as about a 6.5-point favorite over the Dolphins. That's where it is now. Total is 43. I don't want to revisit last year, but I guess let's do it one more time. Week 17, Miami goes into New England. They're a 14-point underdog. They win outright. So why is the line down to 6.5? I think that there is a belief, Howard, that Miami is a pretty good football team based on what we saw last year. And so unknowing of what Cam Newton potentially could look like and their running backs being a little bit shaky, I would say, New England, if that's the best way to put it. Do they have a dynamic receiver on the outside? I'm not so sure. If I had a lean, it would be to Miami and taking the points.
I kind of do.
And you know me, I went against Miami in a big way all last year. Bet against them, bet the total against them. I'm very impartial when it comes to this. But you kidding me? Miami gets off to a 7-0 lead, and you're sitting with 13.5 points against a team that doesn't have Brady at quarterback?
Yeah, well, and I also think that we can't undersell the guys opting out on defense.
That's true
for New England as well. Fitzpatrick's at the helm. It's not going to be Tua. So we've seen Fitzpatrick, and now he's got a backfield with Breida and Howard. He's got a healthy Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. So yeah, I think that it's an interesting one to say the least. What about? Let me ask you this one: Cleveland against the Ravens. Mm-hmm. Now, it's like it's an 8-point game. Ravens are favored by 8. At some places I've seen it down at -7.5. Like if I saw it at -7.5, I'd probably be like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see that. The 8, all of a sudden, what I want to take, as bullish as I am on the Cleveland offense, when I see that 8 points, I'm like, a lot of people are bullish on the Browns. They're going to end up taking them in the points, and this is where the Ravens just open that can of whoop ass, and next thing you know, I mean, it finishes up a 2-touchdown lead.
Yeah, Browns beat the Ravens in Baltimore last year, didn't they?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did. So look, it's a division game, and in general, when you're getting points in a division game early on in the season, you're going to take those points, just like I mentioned with Miami. Look, I don't love it. Lamar Jackson's it's two stories here. Lamar Jackson started off as hot as anybody could, and then he still had an unbelievable season, but we saw what happened in the playoffs. He just didn't quite look the same. I like Cleveland's offense. I think that they're a better team than they were last year. I think they're a better coach team than they were last year. Now that Kareem Hunt is part of the team full time, he wasn't there, remember, at the beginning of the season last year. Hooper, I think, is a nice add for them. Their defense is good enough. So I wouldn't mess with this one, but certainly if you asked me, pick a dog or a favorite in most of the games. In the NFL Week 1, I'm going to take a lot of underdogs, and this is another one that I would lean on. I'll tell you one favorite that I do like this week, and it does play into my total, and maybe that's the reason why where I like it, but I have a feeling this will be one of the games that I'll probably end up using in the Super Contest. I have to check and see if the lines did come out today. It's like I'm so far behind that I didn't even see. Usually they're out today. But the Lions opened up at -1 against the Bears, and that line has been one of the biggest movers. It's up to 3 now. Probably when they announced Trubisky, I guess it moved a 1.5, 2 points and a half. And I guess the question that you have here is that if this is a close game and Trubisky is not playing well, we know that he's got the shortest leash of any quarterback in the NFL right now. And if the Bears are getting shut out at the half and it's only 10-0, right? Or it's only 7-0 or 6-0, do they make the change to Nick Foles? And then, Howard, when they make that change, because it's inevitable, they're going to make it. When they make the change to Nick Foles, does that matter? Like, does it matter? I'm not really sure, because if we get the Foles that we saw last year, then I would double down my bet on the Lions. But I do like Detroit in Week 1. This is
you like Detroit overall. They were your favorite. Take the over on the win total.
I do. And look, this tells you that these two teams are even. I think Detroit is better than Chicago. It was a beautiful line at -1, 1.5. Now it's 3. I don't think it'll go higher than that. And I think that you could probably lay 2.5 in some spots if you can. And usually that suckers people into taking the favorite. But I like Detroit at home. I think they're going to beat the Bears Week 1. And I think that this line is probably right. This is where it should be, 2.5, 3. But this is one of the teams, at least, I feel good about going into the weekend. We'll see when we make our picks.
We definitely will. Another one that I'm kind of looking at, the Monday night game, the Steelers against the Giants. Because I'll say this, like, I'm tempted just to, say right now. I mean, my lean is the Steelers. The Giants defense is so bad. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious. But the question is does this game turn into like some sort of a backdoor cover? Like all of a sudden.
Do you ever feel like there are some teams that I don't feel like I have a good read on in general, and the Giants are one of those for me. I'm not really ever sure week to week what they're going to look like. Monday night home dogs, 2 of them, Howard. 2 Monday night home dogs to open up the season.
Yeah,
I would say the odds of one not winning and covering outright. I mean, it's going to happen in one of the games, I would think. I mean, Monday night home dogs used to be the best bet of your life. Now it's not quite as good, but it's still above.
No, it was terrible last year. We did it a couple of times.
Yeah, the favorite was winning. So look, Big Ben is going to be healthy for at least one game. The line has gone from 4 to looks like 5.5, as you mentioned. And so it's just a pass for me, man. It's just a pass for me. I don't have a good feel. I don't have a good feel for the Giants. Sometimes they look like a team that's going to win 10 games. Sometimes they look like a team that's going to win 2 games.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, again, it's an early look. It's Sunday right now and Monday. Lines could move.
Yeah.
Players could be out. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. But I think for now, for at least for tonight, we can say we're gonna lean on the under for Houston KC.
Yeah, we'll be back after Thursday, so we may as well give opinions on that.
Yeah, we will be back on after Thursday. We'll be back on Saturday.
The game will be over at that point, but I assume that we're not using that for the Super Contest. We can move
on. I'm not going to use that for the Super Contest.
Let me ask you something before we wrap up, because people have asked me about this live stream and why don't we ever discuss suicide pools. So we may as well just throw it out there. Would you use Kansas City this week on Thursday night, opening night? Would you use the Chiefs as your pick for the week?
No, not right from the get-go. Please.
Well, Howard, I would invite you to look at the other games and tell me who you like.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, I think the easy money is Buffalo at home against the Jets.
Okay. You know what? I agree with you. That would be, if not my first choice, my second choice.
What would be your first choice?
But I would tell you that in the pools that I'm doing, a lot of people took the Colts.
Oh, okay. Against the Jags. That doesn't surprise me.
I got to tell you, on the road, first game of the year, new quarterback, would it shock you to see Jacksonville win and then lose 10 in a row? Not at all.
Not lose 10 in a row, but it would shock me to see them, win this first game.
It would not shock me at all. It would not shock me at all. The beginning of the season in any sport does not determine what a team is. And I'll tell you what play I like in the Colts Jaguars, the under in that one. I like the under a lot in that one, under 45.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Well, we'll finalize everything when we come back again.
I'm so excited.
I know, right? Come on, Saturday night, baby. Saturday night, spend it with Mish and Bender on the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll be doing Tuesday nights regularly, moving forward, and then finalize our Super Contest picks on Saturday night. So get ready, baby. It's gonna be one heck of a season, no doubt about it. Big thanks to our producer Matt Sells for always doing amazing work. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Thanks for tuning into the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.